I've always believed in the supernatural, but I never thought it would happen to my neighbors. It was my neighbor Edward who shared with me a chilling incident that still sends shivers down my spine. Edward's house had a beautiful fountain in the garden, complete with a statue that held a pot from which water flowed gently. You've probably seen one like it before, or maybe you even have one in your own garden. But what happened next is something that will make you think twice about the seemingly innocent objects that surround us. One fateful day, the statue inside the fountain suddenly toppled over, shattering into 3 disturbing pieces: the head, the body, and the legs. It was as if some unseen force had struck it down, leaving Edward with an unsettling feeling that something was amiss. Despite his initial thoughts that the statue could be easily repaired, Edward couldn't shake off the sense of foreboding that settled in his heart. He decided to place the broken statue beside the main door. But little did he know that this was only the beginning of a terrifying series of events that would haunt him and his family. The next day, Edward's wife and daughter left for the grocery store, leaving him and his son alone in the living hall, engrossed in a heated PlayStation 4 battle. But their fun was short-lived, as Edward suddenly felt an unsettling presence at the main door. At first, he thought it might be a snake or some other unwelcome visitor. But as he turned to look, his blood ran cold. The broken statue from the previous day was moving, its body twitching and jerking as if possessed by some malevolent spirit. Edward's heart racing, he slowly got up and approached the door, his eyes fixed on the statue in horror. And then he saw it. A monkey, its beady eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intelligence, was hanging from the statue's head, its hand rummaging inside the broken body as if searching for something. Edward's instincts screamed at him to get rid of the creature, and he made a loud noise to scare it away, not wanting to disturb the already fragile statue. The monkey, startled, let out a terrified shriek and fled for its life, disappearing into the trees. In a desperate bid to protect his home, Edward tied his dog, a normally docile creature, to the front door, hoping that it would chase away any future intruders. As night fell, Edward's wife was busy cooking in the kitchen, while he stood at the main gate, engrossed in a conversation with a neighbor. But the neighbor's attention was elsewhere, fixed on Edward's dog, which was tied to the gate. The neighbor's eyes widened in horror as he watched the dog's face contort into a twisted, savage snarl, its eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity. It was as if the dog was waiting to pounce, its body tense and coiled, ready to strike. Edward followed the neighbor's gaze and was shocked to see his normally docile dog transformed into a menacing beast. "I've never seen him like this before," Edward whispered, his voice trembling with fear. The neighbor's eyes were fixed on the dog's face, and he seemed to be frozen in terror. Suddenly, Edward's son walked towards them, oblivious to the danger lurking before him. And then, in a flash of teeth and fur, the dog sprang into action, its jaws wide open as it lunged at the boy's face. Edward's scream was drowned out by the sound of his son's terrified wails as the dog's teeth sank deep into his flesh. The neighbor's voice was distant, shouting at Edward to grab a towel and press it to the boy's face. But Edward was in a state of panic, unable to move or think. The only thing that registered was the warm, sticky blood that was pouring from his son's face, and the sound of his own voice screaming in horror. The neighbor's car screeched to a halt beside them, and he yelled at Edward to get in, to take his son to the hospital before it was too late. But as Edward stumbled towards the car, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, that the dog's attack was not just a random act of violence, but a warning. As they rushed into the hospital's emergency department, the child specialty doctor was shocked by the severity of the boy's injuries. "Has your dog ever done anything like this before?" the doctor asked Edward, his voice laced with concern. Edward shook his head, still trying to process the events that had unfolded. "No, never," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The doctor's expression turned grave. "We need to get your dog checked out at an animal clinic," he advised. "This behavior is not normal. We need to rule out any underlying medical conditions that may have triggered this attack." Edward was stunned. His dog had always been gentle, playful, and loving. What could have caused it to turn on his son like that? As he looked at his son's battered face, he couldn't help but wonder if the dog was somehow possessed. The whole family was terrified of the dog now, and they didn't know what to do with it. They were too busy tending to their son's wounds to worry about the dog's fate. They tied it up in the backyard, hoping to keep it out of the way. But as they cleaned up the blood-stained front door, Edward's eyes landed on the statue beside it. His son's blood was splattered all over it, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't want to keep the statue anymore, didn't want to be reminded of this horrific incident. So he picked it up and tossed it into the trash, trying to rid himself of the bad memories. But as he walked to the backyard to check on the dog, he was met with a sight that made his blood run cold. The dog's face was twisted in a mixture of sadness and regret, as if it was trying to apologize for what it had done. As Edward's son recovered from his ordeal, Edward couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in his heart. He warned his son to stay away from the dog, fearing that it might turn on them again. But the question that lingered in his mind was, what had triggered the dog's sudden aggression? The neighbor's visit only served to reinforce Edward's concerns, as he too was baffled by the dog's behavior. As the night wore on, Edward's thoughts turned to the events of the day, and he couldn't help but wonder if there was more to the story than met the eye. The image of his son's blood-soaked face haunted him, and he felt an overwhelming need to talk to someone, to try and make sense of the chaos that had erupted in his life. It was then that he remembered the strange occurrences that had been plaguing his household. The broken fountain, the dog's transformation, and now his son's brutal attack. He felt like he was losing his grip on reality, and he didn't know where to turn. In desperation, he sought out the help of a local witchcraft practitioner, hoping that they might be able to shed some light on the darkness that had descended upon his home. The witchcraft practitioner listened intently as Edward recounted the events of the past few days, and then instructed him to gather soil from the 4 directions of his house, as well as water from a container that he kept inside. As Edward returned with the items, the witchcraft practitioner examined them carefully, his eyes narrowing as he sensed the presence of something malevolent. "There is something inside your house," he warned Edward, his voice low and ominous. "A dark spirit that has been awakened by the blood incident. It will not stop until it has claimed more blood, and it will not rest until it has consumed everything in its path." Edward's mind reeled as he tried to process the witchcraft practitioner's words. He thought back to the broken fountain and the dog's sudden aggression. It was then that he realized that the blood incident was not an isolated event, but rather a symptom of a larger problem. The dark spirit had been lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now that it had tasted blood, it would stop at nothing to claim more. Edward's thoughts were consumed by a sense of dread as he wondered when the next attack would come, and who would be the next victim. The witchcraft practitioner's words echoed in his mind. "Your house has a history of blood incidents. The dark spirit has been awakened before, and it will not rest until it has claimed more blood." Edward's heart sank as he realized that he was not just fighting for his family's safety, but also for their very souls. As Edward reflected on the events that had transpired, he realized that the blood on the statue wasn't from his son, but from the monkey that had panicked and run, scratching itself on the broken statue and leaving behind a trail of blood. It was this blood that had summoned the dark spirit, which had then possessed the dog and attacked his son. The witchcraft practitioner listened intently as Edward recounted the events, and then nodded gravely. "I can cleanse your house of this evil spirit," he said, his voice low and mysterious. "But first, I must perform a ritual to trap the spirit and banish it back to its own realm." The witchcraft practitioner took a teacup plate and placed a cigarette on top of it. And to Edward's amazement, the cigarette began to burn as if someone was smoking it, despite there being no visible smoke. The witchcraft practitioner waited for a while, and then took the cigarette and placed it in a jar, closing it with a yellow cloth. "The spirit is trapped," he said, his eyes gleaming with a knowing light. "Now let us communicate with it and find out why it attacked your son." The witchcraft practitioner asked the spirit what it wanted, and to Edward's surprise, the spirit replied that it wanted to smoke. But when asked why it had attacked the boy, the spirit's response sent chills down Edward's spine. "The boy wanted to play with the statue," it hissed. "I don't like that. So I attacked him." Edward was horrified, but the witchcraft practitioner simply nodded and said, "I see. Well, the spirit is from a nearby house, and it was drawn to the monkey's blood. When it possessed the dog, It was trying to protect its own interests. After the ritual was complete, the witchcraft practitioner walked over to the dog and began to touch and play with it, a look of affection on his face. "Please don't abandon this dog," he said to Edward. "It's not the dog's fault that it was possessed. It's just an innocent animal that was used by the spirit. Care for it with love, and it will be your loyal companion once again." As Edward looked on, he felt a sense of relief wash over him, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the spirit was still out there, waiting for its next victim. What did you think of this story? Join the discussion in the comments below and share your thoughts and theories. Have you ever experienced something supernatural or unexplained? Share your story in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more terrifying tales and updates.